Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. Today I'm going to be talking about a controversial issue. Go figure, eh? Gweilo 60 talking controversial issues. Why are Chinese people living in United States of America citizens dying of the coronavirus? I've actually been part of this for a number of months now, and I've been watching it for a number of months. And you know, being a part of it, being in China during this outbreak and seeing how the Chinese deal with it is actually amazing. You know, when the shit hits the fan, they quarantine. They take temperatures. They close down schools. They close down public transportation. As I say, they quarantine everybody coming into the country. They lock down areas of the city. They actually lock down cities. They lock down provinces to make sure that this doesn't spread any further than it has to. You know, and they're looking at life is more important than money. Yes, it has raised its ugly head again in Beijing, and Beijing is the capital city of China. It's where everything, it's the center of the world for China is what I'm talking about. And if it raises its head there, it can raise its head anywhere in the country. And the Chinese are understanding that, and they're very diligent about it. 180 some cases over the last week and a half. Well, you know, it all starts with one case, doesn't it? The Wuhan thing started with one case and ballooned into something that scared the living bejesus out of China. Okay, so China had, what, 85,000 cases and, what, just under 4,700 deaths in the country of 1.4 billion people. And you've got to understand that China is a developing country of 1.4 billion people. So when you look at what China did, and now, yes, I'm going to start picking on the United States. China didn't know what they were up against back in December of last year because it was just new to them. They didn't know what COVID-19 was. They had to figure all that out as they were quarantining people and putting their medical staff on alert, their police on alert, their citizens on alert. Everybody was wearing masks. Everybody was quarantining, self-quarantining themselves. Everybody was doing exactly what they had to do to stop this thing in its tracks. Okay, now you look at the other side of the world. Well, our doctors are the best in the world. You know, if you tie the hands of the doctors in the United States and overwhelm them with cases of sick people, well, really, how many ventilators do you have? It's up to the politicians. It's up to the people making the decisions in the United States to curb what's going on and how many people get sick. Over 2 million people have contracted. Okay, you got 85,000 people in a country of 1.4 billion people, and they didn't know what they were dealing with when it started, and they kept it to 85,000 people being infected. Okay, in a country of 350 million people, one quarter the size of China, they have over 2 million infected. Why is this? Think about it. Okay, you've got coming up on 200,000 people passed away because of it. This is more people, more Americans than died in the First World War. This is over three times the number of people that died in the Vietnam War. Policing war, you know what I mean? So if you put it into perspective like that, and the politicians in the United States are to blame for this because they didn't implement the procedures that they needed to do to protect the citizens of the United States of America. And I know I'm going to take it on the chin from the Americans on this, but you guys, think about it. Truth is truth. I keep watching the numbers, and I see the numbers going up in the United States. I see people rioting in the streets, people that protest against stay-at-home orders in places, people that won't wear masks, people that won't social distance, people that won't self-quarantine, people that, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit, you guys, think about it. If you did exactly the same as China did in this epidemic, because you're only 1/4 the size of China, you would have 1/4 the number of infected people. So you'd have about 20,000 infected people in all of the United States. You would have maybe 1,000 people pass away from it. Now you're over 2 million people infected and coming up on 200,000 people dying of it. You think you'd shake your head and say, oh geez, maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe our politicians aren't looking out for our best interest. Maybe the civilians in the United States are not as important as the civilians in China when it comes to their lives. Plus, the United States knew what they were dealing with, because by the time it got to the United States, everybody sort of knew what it was, and they still dropped the ball and didn't protect their citizens. You see, I'm doing this video in front of sort of a poorer area of Nanning City to show you that China is still a developing country. China, 1.4 billion people. Sure, they got high rises, they've got subways, they've got public transportation out the yang, they've got you know, big everything, but they're still a developing nation, and their organizational skills are freaking amazing, where in the United States they're not, obviously. This is why you should have real politicians running your country, people that have trained their entire life to make decisions, make the proper decisions, go through the proper procedures to make sure that things are in order, so that when something like this rears its ugly frickin' head, that the government, the country, the people are in a position to take care of it in a proper manner. See, that's what China did. China has those politicians, has those procedures, has the authority, the key word, the authority to lock down cities, lock down provinces, just shut her down, guys. Take the financial hit. It's more important than losing 200,000. See, if China dealt with it the same way as the United States dealt with it, because they have 4 times the population, they would be looking at 800,000 deaths at this point in time. Think about that. Just about 1 million dead people because their politicians didn't do it right. But the thing is, their politicians did do it right. When they have a problem, when they see a new resurgence of this frickin' virus, they take action, and they take action immediately. They'll lock down neighborhoods, they'll quarantine, they'll shut down schools, they'll shut down public transportation in and out of Beijing. It doesn't matter where it is. They will do what they have to do to protect the citizens of China. And again, I go back to the United States, and they didn't do that. They didn't do anything. Instead of having 20,000 infected, because they're 1/4 the size of China, and if they would have dealt with it properly, they probably would have had the same numbers as what China did. Okay, so but they already knew what it was, and China was playing catch up when they took care of this. So what happens if they would have dealt with it the same as China did? Maybe they would have only had 10,000 get sick, and 500 people pass away from it instead of coming up on 200,000 people. Jesus freaking Christ! Now it's out there in the United States. They can't stop it. It's widespread. It's out of control. And now what do? What did Trump say when, if we only have 100 or 200,000 people die of this, well then we're doing good. Really? So when you ask the question, why are Chinese living and Americans dying? You have to look at the politicians, the incompetence of your politicians, the way that they don't act on what they're supposed to do, the way that they point fingers at other countries and say it's their fault, that's bullshit. Because China, maybe it started here, I don't know. Who cares? What does it matter where it started? It's how your government dealt with it that makes the difference in how many people get infected and how many people die from this thing. It's a world pandemic now. There's no way that we can turn back the clock, but we can deal with it in a proper manner. So again, I ask the question, why are Chinese living and Americans dying? You know, as an American, and I know there's a lot of Americans that watch my channel, you know as an American that it is the fault of your politicians by not moving fast enough, not doing things smart enough, not taking it seriously enough. Your president went over and over and over as this thing started saying, oh, it's not a big deal. When summer comes, it'll just disappear. Things like this that undermine the seriousness of this problem. And it's ongoing now in the United States. China shut the borders down to every other country out there because they're just not dealing with it right. If they open up for one country, they've got to basically open up for everybody. And as America is a sick country, the sick man of North America at this point, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Wei Feng and I made a decision to come back to China because of this, the way that China is dealing with this epidemic, and I think we made the proper decision. So instead of the United States pointing fingers at China, this is Gweilo 60 pointing fingers back at the United States and saying, shame on you for dealing with this in an improper manner. Shame on you for putting your citizens at risk. Shame on you for having more than 3 times the population die that was in the Vietnam War. Shame on you for having more people die in this epidemic than died in World War I. Shame on you for not dealing with it properly, thinking of yourselves, thinking that somehow the American government, the American people, the American doctors that had their hands tied behind their back when they're trying to deal with this thing because the politicians wouldn't move their ass, do what they had to do. Shame on the politicians in the United States for killing just about, at this point already, 200,000 of their citizens by inaction and stupidity. Yeah. And that's another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, which you probably won't if you're an American, but the truth hurts, guys, and sometimes it has to be thrown at you. You know, it's like throwing shit at a wall and seeing if it sticks or not. Will it stick with you guys? I don't know, but it had to be said. If you like this video, subscribe. If you don't, delete. It's one of those things that life goes on, but never forget to put a couple bucks in the children's Patreon account. It's for a good cause. Poor old Chinese children, they just need a helping hand. We can help them. So help out, have a heart. Thanks for watching. Bye now.